Hello, everybody. This is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 and 103.5, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Also, we are on Facebook, YouTube, Roku, and YouTube and other internet platforms. And I do invite you to check out my YouTube page, become a subscriber. I'm Bart Sharp -1. And so I'm really excited about today because I have known Pamela Gregory all the years I've been on Facebook. And if you know anything about me, I love Facebook. It's my favorite platform for some reason. Whatever the criticisms over it are, I like the community of it. No rationales there. But Pamela has been doing hard work, all of these things that I always admired in her. So we've been interchanging. And somehow I was looking for another Pam Gregory. And I kept thinking, Pamela Gregory, I see her all the time, and I'm not asked her on the show. And I certainly should, because she is the founder of the Eyes of Love Revolution with the upcoming classes in Forgiveness Healing Sanctuary, and has been doing this work of the frequency of forgiveness forever. And so it's like, where the heck have you been, Pamela Gregory? I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you, Bart. It's so wonderful to be here. And when we had a little reintroduction call about maybe 2 months ago,
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how we've kind of started on the same path and then reconnected after all of these years, and to see what you're doing and see what I'm doing, and how they're so aligned even after all these years. So once you're on the path, I guess you stay there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you're very passionate about it, as I've been reading your stuff for 11 years. And, you know, when somebody's that dedicated, and it's like, it's the same thing. We have to open up our hearts. We have to go into forgiveness and opening to a greater thing. And just before we start, I just want to read Pamela's bio. Pamela Gregory, that's PamelaGregory. Pamela Gregory is a forgiveness therapist and soul alchemist whose life work is helping people break free from judgment, pain, distortion through the power of love. She teaches forgiveness not as a virtue, but as a quantum frequency, one that heals the nervous system, rewires the field, and restores the truth of who we are. Her approach is grounded in Christ consciousness and inspired by the frequency of Mary Magdalene. Pamela is the founder of the Eyes of Love Revolution and the upcoming Forgiveness Healing Sanctuary classes. But her deeper mission isn't to teach love, it's to be it, and to awaken that same remembering of others. Her message is simple but profound. When we stop judging, we start healing. When we remember who we are, we stop betraying ourselves, and when we live love, we transform the world. She's not here to fix the world. She's here to help us see it in ourselves through the eyes of love. There's so much humility in that, and when you're looking at spiritual teachers, that is the one thing that I'm always looking at is their dedication and their service bigger than them? Who are they serving? And, when we hear from you, it just seems to be in that category. Thank you. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Bart. I'm really excited to be here. Yes, this forgiveness has been such a big part of my life. When I went through a whole healing process with myself about 25 years ago, I guess, when I realized I had some unresolved forgiveness issues in my life that stemmed all the way back to childhood, and I didn't even know I had it. But when I went through that time and really did the work and saw where I was out of alignment with love and where there was so much unforgiveness in my life, a lot of it stemmed from the death of my brother when I was 11. He died suddenly of an aneurysm when he was 21. And it affected my family so profoundly that it was just something we never healed, even decades later. And how we know,
Hey, Pamela, can you pull your mic a little bit closer?
oh, yes, okay. Is that better?
Yeah, you're a little bit clearer.
Okay. There we go. I turned it up a bit.
All right, good.
Okay. And so what I found was, if I were to go tell the story, and I would get choked up like it happened yesterday. I would start tearing, that kind of thing. And so that's how we know we've healed something and how we know we haven't. So when we tell the story that, oh, I've healed this or, whatever, and if we still get triggered or upset, then that means there's just another layer to heal. It's not that we haven't done the work or here we go again. It's about really understanding that it's like a layer of healing that's involved. Okay. So maybe 5 years ago, I was only ready to heal a certain amount, but then all of a sudden now I'm ready to heal at a different level. So I went to work on that, and it just changed my life so profoundly. And I literally kept hearing forgiveness healing for like a year until one day I said, okay, if I'm supposed to do something like, with this, give me a sign. And then I got like 3 signs that day. I pulled angel cards as 46 cards in a deck. And I think the forgiveness card came up like 5 out of, 6 times or something. So I'm like, okay, I get the message. Okay, got it. So I just launched the Forgiveness Healing group on Facebook. And that just took on a life of its own. And I'm not that active on it anymore because we're not able to message, the members like we, did back in the day. But it just led to so many different things in my life. And I realized how many people really needed this. And it became like a community within a community. And I've just been so passionate about it ever since. And
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Forgiveness is something people can go, well, I forgave her or him, and it feels very mental.
Right.
And then they wonder, well, why didn't I get this relief when I forgave them? Or why didn't it change inside of me? And when you talk about quantum forgiveness, you're going beyond the mental.
Oh, big time beyond the mental. And that's where a lot of times people say, well, I can forgive, but I can't forget. And they think
Yes.
if they, truly forgive, then I'm going to set myself up to be, a victim again or harmed in some way. And, I'm going to let people hurt me the same way they did before. But that's not the case at all. When people say, I forgive, but I can't forget, that to me, it sounds like you're a little bit pregnant. Either you forgive, or you didn't, right? So it's about understanding that that's in the head. When the ego gets involved, that's and again, ego gets a bad rap, but it's there for a reason. Okay, it's there to guide us in certain ways and protect us and all that, but it can be too loud. And so when we get out of our head into our heart, that's what quantum forgiveness is. Because when we tune into our heart gives messages based on love and truth, not the story that's in our head that we've been living out of from the time we were 5 or something, right?
Yes.
So shifting into our heart and leading with that, it changes everything. But it's a frequency thing. So the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the brain, okay? So when we make a decision in our heart and are able to shift it at that level, it ripples out in a way that is just so much more effective and thorough than if we were to do it with our mind, that something else comes up later, down the road, and I'm going to respond in the same reactive way versus responding out of love. Does that make sense?
It does. And, when you talk about the heart having 5,000 times more power, it's also a power that goes beyond the heart.
Oh,
You're
for
going
sure.
into the feeling of your body, but also energetic feels beyond that. So whenever you tune into that and you're looking at something that's a hardness in your life, what's that process like? What can you give some examples of what you've seen happen, and what is happening, so people can take that and begin applying it.
Well, let me share a story of one of the of a woman I worked with several years ago, and she had lost her husband to suicide, and she 6 months later was still really struggling with it. She had taken a 6 month leave of absence. She was referred to me Friday night. Her 6 months up was up on Monday, and she still couldn't get out of bed. She just was no better off than she was the day it happened. And she'd been through grief counseling and all the traditional therapies and all of that, and nothing helped. So we had a 90-minute session or whatever, and she saw that it wasn't her fault, and she really forgave from the heart versus the head, because when in a sad situation like suicide, there's so much guilt involved. And
Yes.
so when we were able to address that and see that and she really understood it was not her fault, no matter what. We always think I could do more. Maybe if I said this or did that, and that will eat you alive. And
Yeah.
that those regrets are the biggest things that rob us out of the peace in our life and our health. So anyway, she was able to resolve it in 90 minutes, and she just couldn't believe it. She just, went to work, and I checked in with her a few years later, and she ended up meeting the love of her life, and she's happily remarried now. So that was a really happy story. So, and there are so many like that. I just too many to
Yeah.
even, yes.
It's those RE words: regrets,
Yes.
resentments,
Yes.
reactions, that
Mm-hmm.
keep us going back into past things. And the mind can't really resolve the past. It can see the sequences and maybe create a strategy, and maybe not, how to do better. But there's a division in a fractured place that needs something else.
Right. And that's the difference between the heart and the head. And so when we understand and have it, and this is really about healing the soul. So many of us come, I really believe that we have a soul contract when we come here, and we scripted everybody into our life that is in our life. We script them to love us and leave us and hurt us and help us. And you think, well, why would I script something like that? Most people, when I brought that up, they're like, oh, there's no way I would script this. What, was I crazy? At the time it might have sounded like a good idea, but once we land here and we land in the land of amnesia, right?
Yeah.
We have no way of remembering that I signed up for this. And I signed
Yeah.
up for it because this is what my soul needed to experience here, because for the growth of my soul on a much higher level. This lifetime is like a blink in the eye. So to me, it's the work we do here and it's not work, it's just pleasure. I mean, but people think it's work because it's so hard. But when investing our time and energy in coming from a place of unconditional love, Christ consciousness, that's like a game changer all the way across the board, and it's achievable. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to spend years on a mountaintop. It's a decision. It's a decision to come from a place of love, to bless the car next to you instead of flip him off. I mean, that's that. It is, and it feels good in me every time I say bless you to the. I'm in
But
LA a
but but
lot, so,
that's but that's a
right?
hard thing to do, because a lot of times you have this separation inside of you. It can be very painful. You could call it anger, you call it resentment, but it's a separation. And every time a car pulls out in front of you, or something doesn't happen or somebody treats you unfairly, we don't look at that person like, oh, I wonder what's going on with them or what pain they're in or what kind of unconsciousness that is. We go to our separation,
Right.
and our emotions show up. And
they're probably not good emotions either, are they, Bart? No. You know, whatever. You said we can't swear on the show, right?
well,
Okay.
there's certain words you can, but
Right. I'm kidding. No, but again, it's that the thing is that's reacting, okay, versus responding, and it takes a little practice, you know, and being conscious, okay, quantum consciousness, okay, to be conscious. I'm going to respond out of love, and you can literally tell yourself the next time somebody pulls in front of me or cuts me off, it's like, bless you, have a beautiful day, and all of a sudden I'm re-regulated. I'm
yes,
sending them love and blessing. I feel good, and it's good for them and everybody around me. So what's that gonna hurt? You know, it can only help. And whether they, you know, I feel better, and that's what we all have to understand is what do I need to do to make me feel better? And the minute I tune into love, I feel better. You know, and by the way, when people tell me something's hard, when you look at like forgiveness is hard, what's harder is like I've worked with people. I worked many years in a cancer clinic counseling the patients. And, you know, they'll say forgiveness is so hard. They'll show up there in their 70s and 80s carrying something with them for 60, 70 years. That's hard.
yep,
Set yourself free today because we are here to live this beautiful life. I mean, I believe, I tell people all the time, I'm living heaven on earth. Just declaring that makes all these doors open and wonderful things happen. And it's not that my life's perfect or I don't have challenges and stuff going on that I'd rather not have go on. I mean, that's life, but it's like how we respond to that, to the challenges and how we grow through them,
it is.
right?
Well, it is, and I grew up in a family that loved their resentments. And you
Yes.
talk about, they tell you a story, you know, and you know, when some disaster is going to happen, you know, like the Big Depression is going to hit, or these times are going to be coming tough type of story. And you look at their eyes and their expression, and they love the rightness of having that hardness. You know, it gives them reassurance that their whole life was justified because they've had that pain all of their lives. I mean, it's strong, and it takes a lot of strength to live with something like that. However, strength can be applied to joyful ways, and strength can catapult you into another type of greatness.
Right.
That is exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And we can let it define us, you know, our past define us. I mean, Bart, some of the stories I've heard over the years in my sessions, you couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, they're so tragic and absolutely heartbreaking. And, you know, you wonder how these people are ever going to get through it.
So before you go through that, what goes on with you when you hear a story like that?
Well, what's interesting is I didn't realize this about myself until I started doing this work is it would land, because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to sit there and cry with you, you know, because of what you've been through. It's just devastating. But I realized when I was in these sessions immediately that my role is to, you know, I'm going to help you up here and we're going to go here versus I'm going to go down there and cry with you because that's not going to help them. And it's not that I'm not empathic, sympathetic, what they've been through, any of that. My heart goes out to them, but I'm not here. I'm going to show them the way out of this versus, and it doesn't land on me that way. It lands on me like, you know, it's a very minor thing, even though it could be one of the worst diagnoses you could ever get. But if I go there, then I'm going to lose my way to help them out. Does that make sense?
Very crystal clear. it really brings up the question, if everybody started doing that, I wonder how the world would change.
There you go. There, there you go. Well, you know what it is, and I realized this years ago. I mean, just I didn't know that this was, because when you're a certain way, you think everybody's that way. But what I realized, and I believe that's why I was made to do this work, is that I see the divine in each person I meet. I don't see the story. I don't see what happened to them, the tragedies, what they've done, all the things they're ashamed of, their regrets that they don't even want to tell me about. And then when they do, they feel so ashamed. I don't see any of that. I don't judge anybody because I know I see their pure self before the world happened to them. And I hold that space for them because when I can see you as whole and perfect, instead of, oh gosh, this happened to Bart, and oh, here we go again, Bart's story. When I can see you whole and a divine being of love, which is what you are, what you're created to be, you're still that no matter what happened to you or what you've done, then you are more able to see yourself as that as well. And I think that's why this has been so effective in the people I work with.
So how did you learn how to get to that attitude? Because there's 101 knee-jerk reactions, or probably 10,001 knee-jerk reactions that want to take you to separation. How do you hold a discipline like that, or a perspective? I won't call it a discipline. Discipline sounds hard, but you're jumping to a perspective to hold something like that. How did you learn how to get there?
I think it's just, again, it's a choice of how we choose, to show up in the world, how we choose to see ourselves and each other. Because once you do it, after a while, I think that the magic number is 40 days. That's why my little retreat is 40 days. It takes 40 days for something to really become naturalized in you. I mean, you can get it in one session. As that woman, she healed her, and again, she healed herself. I'm not the healer. I facilitate it. I gave her the tools, but she either applies it or says, no, I can't do it. It's too hard. This isn't going to work, whatever. But when you come from it's a decision to embody that. I am a divine being of love and I operate out of that frequency. Guess what happens? I don't have to think about it anymore. Somebody cuts me off. It's like, oh, I'm sure they're distracted, or who knows? They're on the way to the hospital or something. Give people the benefit of the doubt, but we have to be so quick to judge and condemn and separate. And even with we're the same way with ourselves too. We need to give cut ourselves some slack and not being perfect all the time. And
it's so true. Well, judgments are such a weird thing because when you judge, a lot of people believe, well, judging is something you have to do to some degree. You have to make a decision that you're going to go this way or that way. That is a judgment. That's red. That's green. At really basic levels, those are judgments. However, some people can take the intensity of anger and put it onto a judgment and almost make it look strong. And we see that a lot in the world today. We see it a lot in leaders. And, it's just a really interesting thing how people trust that type of strength, that, they're going to be tough. They're going to fix it because they're going to have this inner strength that has a judgment and that has anger and other emotions attached to it. So I don't know if there's a good question in that, but do you have any response to how we can start seeing that differently? Because to me, it's kind of a manipulation.
Well, judgments, my philosophy is as if we're judging, we're not loving ourselves or anyone else. Okay. There's a difference between discernment and judgment. in my opinion. Okay. I can see what somebody's behavior is not something I would do, but I'm not them. They're not me. So I don't need you to change for me to be okay. Okay. So just because I don't agree with their behavior, their politics, their religion or whatever, it doesn't mean I've got to have an issue with it. And I've got to sit there and scream it off the rooftop. I mean, actually, when all of this work started 20 some years ago, I started waking up to things about pretty much about the how medical processes are done here especially in the United States, but all over the world. We're not really, it's a sick care industry versus a healthcare industry. And I started, going down the rabbit hole of, all the medications and drugs, pharmaceuticals and all of this. And I wanted to educate the world about it, I was on this rant and how bad this is and don't do that and, whatever. In my opinion, right? And nobody had to agree with me, but I was so sure I was right, right?
Yes.
So I started going down that, path. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, why I'm getting so riled up and my anger is affecting me. The minute we have an angry thought, it, floods our body, chemistry and it, head to toe. And it leaves in 90 seconds, as a little side note. So to hold on to anger longer than 90 seconds is a choice to suffer, okay? But anyway, it floods our body, and we don't feel good. And that's where all of our dis-ease, our stress, our, bad mood, bad attitude comes from. And so I thought, instead of talking about what I'm against, it's like, what am I for?
Yes.
And at the same time, I started, getting into the whole forgiveness piece. I was working on myself, Interesting. I was letting go of anger and the whole pharmaceutical thing. I was letting go of anger within my own life. And good timing. I guess it was just time to let go of anger. And then I started saying, what am I for? And that's when I stepped into the whole, was exposed to, actually I was on a conference call with some cancer research doctors, and they shared that everybody at their facility who had a chronic or terminal condition had a major unresolved forgiveness issue. And when some of them were able to resolve it, they had a miraculous healing that couldn't be attributed to anything else.
Wow.
So that really stuck with me. And I thought, I'm going to show people what I'm for versus what I'm against. And it feels so good to be in this space. You asked earlier, how do you do this? Because I'm talking about it, day and night, and within myself, with my clients, with my friends and family and everybody. So I'm in this world that, I'm marinated in this, love and forgiveness soup, so it's, it's become naturalized. So you don't even have to try.
Well, it's more energizing than being angry.
Ugh.
And I know being angry really stimulates the adrenal glands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why a lot of people are kind of addicted to it with their resentments. They just love to tell those stories again and again because they're tired, they're bored, they don't have anything else to stimulate them that creates excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Where you, on the other hand, you are a heart full of excitement.
Thank you. It's a lot more fun this way. I can tell you, I've lived life both ways. This is way more fun. This is way more fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so, I'm guessing you probably have some days where everything is flowing like that it's even hard to go to sleep.
Yeah, it's again, and being in that place of gratitude shifts so many things. So even if you start off and the day and you're not feeling that great, it's like, oh, I didn't sleep. My Oura ring says, oh, you only slept 5 hours last night or whatever. It's like, oh no, I'm going to be tired today. Well, I've just literally programmed my whole day for being tired. And it's like all this. And if we can remember, again, everything's about consciousness. If I can consciously shift into, a couple things, start thinking about what am I grateful for? I tune into my heart and ask God to guide me that day and that kind of thing. It just shifts everything. And then all of a sudden that energizes us.
Yeah.
Christ consciousness is, he had a lot of energy to get stuff done, because he wasn't carrying around all this baggage weighing him down and being grumpy and sad and miserable. I mean, life's too short for that, if you ask me.
Yeah, and at least in my experience is that there's a magic word called intention and attention. There's two words. Uh, but it's where do you put your focus? And it's like, and this is an internal game. Are you up in your head? Are you in your heart? Or you could be someplace else. But the distinction between head and heart is the biggie. And when you are in your heart and you're just seem to be gravitated there because you train yourself, it's very different. We all grew up in a generation, at least those probably over 50, that you're supposed to be in your head and you're supposed to outthink everybody. And we're trained that way. But it's time for reorientation.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why the world is in the state it's in, because we're trying to think our way through and figure things out versus, getting quiet and following that guidance and reconnecting with ourselves and love and all of that. And it makes such a profound difference. And this is what the little Eyes of Love revolution's about, because I want people to see through new eyes. And it's a choice. I can look, it can be a rainy day out and I'm saying, oh, it's raining out. And it can say, oh, isn't it beautiful that, that everything's getting, like the world's getting, or the earth is getting a shower or something like that. We can look at it in any way. I mean, it's just, loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. Same world. And,
it is.
So it's how we choose to see it. And we need to reprogram, we talk about brainwashing. Well, we need to wash our brains because society is set up for all of this negativity and separation. And it's to keep us distracted from the love we came here to do and be.
Yeah, and it's all with your heart. And when you learn how to do that, a lot of the lies and falsities and manipulations come clear to us. It's as simple as that. Right. And something that is very clear to me right now is that we're at midpoint of the show. This is Becoming Quantum Conscious. My name is Bart Sharp, and we have guest Pamela Gregory, who is from PamelaGregory.com. And she is the founder of the Eyes of Love Revolution. And also, you are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. So, Pamela, what kind of projects are you up to today, or these days?
Ooh, I've had a lot of projects in the works. This last year has just been tremendous. So I've started this Eyes of Love Revolution, which is helping people to, again, see the world through eyes of love, for love is what you see. So it's just planting these little seeds in people's mind to view the world from that perspective. So I'm coming up with an app to help do that. Again, daily reminders, because as we do this, maybe 40 days is what it takes. But as we do this, it starts, again, it naturalizes in us. And that's what I'm wanting to help people get back to. Forgiveness, healing for humanity. It is for humanity. My forgiveness of myself and the world helps humanity. And we all need to do our part. Yeah. And so many people in my sessions will say, I want to make a difference in the world. Well, if they just did nothing but be loving and kind on a regular basis, respond out of love versus react out of anger or fear. They lift up hundreds of thousands of other people on the planet just by being loving and kind. You don't have to go work at the soup kitchen. You don't have to give money to anybody. But do what you're called to do. But just, it doesn't cost anything, and you feel better. You stay healthier. Your relationships are happier. So it's all of that. So that's one of the things, but so that's a big part of it. And I'm just launching, I've been wanting to, for 20 some years, I've been thinking about having a forgiveness healing sanctuary retreat on the Amalfi Coast. Okay. But I realized I didn't want to get in the bed and breakfast business. And now the Amalfi Coast is really crowded. So I decided to launch one online, and that way people don't have to travel, and it gives them the same kind of teachings that we would do in a retreat. And we're going to spread it over a 6-week period for 40 days, meet twice a week. And this way people can access it. But it's a very intimate group because I want everybody to get the right attention. It's not about, selling it to the masses. It's really about people being called to really heal their forgiveness issues. And that's what it's being offered for.
Indeed. It'll be good stuff, and you can find us at PamelaGregory.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really brings up this question, because you're talking to people all the time, and we always slip up.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be thinking, I'm really bringing out this love, and all of a sudden, wham. Something really gets stuck in you and you can't resolve it, or you're having a struggle and you're in resentments and they won't go away. It becomes an obsession or whatever. I'm thinking of my life earlier this week, actually.
Was it a rough one for you? You should have called me,
Yeah.
Have a lifeline, right?
What do you recommend to people?
Well, whenever I catch myself like that, and I do, it's just like I want to remove myself from the situation and reset and apply some of the tools and practices that I have that really make a difference. And I have to say, though, whether it's the EFT tapping or, some of the heart-centered work that I do, when you're most upset is when you need it the most. You forget it. It goes out of your head, and we're all caught up in that. But it's just like the sooner you can, rein yourself back in. I equate it to like driving down the road. You're driving down the road, you go off the side a little bit, and you can either get back on the highway and ride smoothly, or you can go into the ditch and do a few rolls and spend a few, days, months, years, lifetimes there,
Mm-hmm.
and lifetimes, it's more than one, so
Yes.
So we keep repeating these patterns. So, and to see and to notice the patterns we have in our
Mm-hmm.
life, because they're there to bring to our attention what's unhealed.
Yes.
So my anger, this is, if somebody does something to me and it reminds me of something Uncle Bob did, it's because I haven't healed Uncle Bob. It's not what this guy did just now, you see? So it's seeing the pattern in your life too, because we tend to have life themes that our soul gave us so we could come here and heal it. And we'll experience a lot of the same things again and again and again. I call it algebra class. Okay, because until we pass, we have to take it. So next year it's the same, same lesson, different classmates, but until I pass it, I have to repeat it, and that's.
Well, I really see that, when we have these big limitations, and there's, I don't know what percentage there is of people that are like, kind of have normal, sane childhoods, and then those who are just, things are just stacked upon you of challenges. But if you are that and you've lived it every day for, say, the first 17 years of your life, it's going to take a while to unravel. Mm-hmm. And you will have your victories, but they keep coming back until you hit a critical mass.
Right.
And the whole neurology holds that, and your cellular structures hold that. Mm-hmm. But it can be done. You believe that too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what all of this is about, because, as I said, life is so beautiful. It's such a gift. We take it for granted. We really do. And especially until we get a serious diagnosis. Then all of a sudden we realize how precious life truly is. And we don't take each day for granted anymore. But yeah, it's because it's there. I mean, I had a man in his 70s who had at the cancer clinic who had an unforgiveness issue that went back to his father when he was 7. And he said, oh, well, that will take, we talked about forgiveness. He goes, well, that'll take, decades of therapy to heal. And I said, no, we're doing it today. He looks at me like, and he did. He couldn't believe it. Again, it's the shift. It's like, when we look at things differently, we can change. Forgiveness is not something in the head. He had, all of the issues we're carrying with us were very justified. As I said, so many of the things that have happened to people have been just, I can't even repeat them. But
Go ahead.
but the thing is, it's like, okay, that's that. But I've got to carry that with me. It's this pain, this story, and again, not a story like it's not true, but this identity. We identify with our pain, and we go through life. Well, I'm like this because what happened to me at 10. Or I can say, because of what happened with me at 10, I'm going to now heal this because I'm done. I don't want to take this to the grave and beyond. Because guess what? It's algebra class, even on the other side. It's like, oh, Tammy, you didn't heal that. You get to go back and, do that part again. I don't want to do that part again. I want to show up as the love and light that I came here to do and be, and, go on to the next best place,
Well, speaking to somebody that lived in a trash dumpster emotionally as a child and such, and carry that on into adult life, when you do cross on the other side, you get the opposite effect of the trash dumpster. You get whatever that opposite is. In other words, there's a joy and celebration with that there. So it is worth the work, whatever that is. And it's just amazing for that to happen.
Yes.
I really saw that, you holding somebody that bothers you in your heart for an extended period of time, or you shine your light of your heart onto them.
Right.
To do that.
Well, that's where the Ho'oponopono comes in. The I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. When we say that to people, we don't have to say that to them out loud, but just sending that intention, it heals them, believe it or not. There's a book on it, Dr. Lin, and he went to this psychiatric ward in Hawaii, which was the most severe cases of all. And when he just meditated over each patient, he never met them, and just sending love, forgiveness, acceptance, all of that to each one by one. And this is all documented. This is not just some woo-woo story out there. That sending love to someone really, it absolutely makes a difference. And that's why prayer works.
Yeah, it really does. And it's great to have people you are guided by. And one that you're guided by is Mary Magdalene. What has been that process for you?
She, I really wasn't that much in touch with, I really didn't even think about her much, which is so interesting when you reached out, because she'd been on my radar this last year. And all of a sudden, I guess because of where I was going with my work and teaching Christ consciousness, she has started making herself known. I call it living light, like a living light transmissions, and just giving me this guidance. And you can think, well, you're imagining it, maybe I am, but she gives me such pure guidance that, and it's all what, it's what forgiveness is, and it's not about judging. It's about leading from love, embodying that, and be the example, and be that light that draws others in just by holding that frequency. Again, you don't have to do anything, just hold the frequency.
So as you hold the frequency, information comes through you that seems like her voice or a voice.
Yes.
That comes through you.
Right. When I ask, where's this message coming from? And she pops up all the time and says, it's me. So again, who knows? I mean, I have in my sessions over the years, I have communicated a lot with the other side, especially when somebody is talking about a loved one. and I will just blurt out, "Oh, well, they're here, and they said whatever," and I don't even warn them. I should, but when I get a message through, I have to say it because it comes and it goes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It,
but it's
so
that kind of thing. Yeah.
it's almost like a frequency that just shows up in that other person or in you, and you know what that feels like, and
Right.
you have a choice whether
Right.
you speak or not to
Right.
speak.
Right. Very right.
What are some of the things that you've learned from Mary Magdalene?
Oh gosh. And again, it's just about embodying this love and not judging and just coming from a place of purity and acceptance and holding that frequency. And really, it's we make it all so complicated, and it's not. I mean, Jesus didn't start a religion. He didn't, he was just here to teach love. And if we remember that, if we start embodying what he was here to teach, when I talk about Christ consciousness, it's like, oh, well, you're Christian, has nothing to do with Christianity, has nothing to do with any religion. It's a frequency you embody. Christ
Yeah.
consciousness is a frequency we embody, and that's what the forgiveness work does. And that's what Jesus was here to teach. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Okay, because they don't have the consciousness to understand where we're coming from in that act. And it's just so to judge somebody for an act that they weren't, didn't have the consciousness to understand what they were doing. It's like being mad at a fifth grader because he doesn't understand algebra. Okay, it's like, well, how do you not understand algebra? Everybody, it's he's not there yet. We have to understand, love people where they are, and they are here, and they're perfect exactly the way they are too. But it's how I respond to them, no matter how they show up, is what makes a difference in me, and what goes on in me is how I affect the world.
Yes, yes. And it's so well said with that. And for those of you that want to cross over to where you understand what's in your heart, and understand that somewhere you can understand a lot of what is beyond you in other worlds or other people. It is like being able to comprehend another language, which would be a frequency, a vibration,
Right.
something coming into you. Any suggestions to people on how to start doing that?
Well, it's about getting quiet, and people talk about meditation. Oh, I've got to meditate, or I meditate 2 hours a day or 5 hours, whatever. And like but we can be meditating. I call it being present, washing dishes. When I'm getting ready for the day, that's when I get so many of my downloads. And that's when I get my messages, because it's quiet, it's my alone time, and I'm just thinking and feeling, the guidance. And if we just paid attention, and that's where presence comes in, is as we are present, we are able to receive a lot of this guidance, which we're getting all day long. But we're so busy being busy and being in our story and healing. Okay, we spend a whole life healing, versus when are we going to start living?
Would that have anything to do with being the past or future instead of the now?
Exactly. A little bit. Yes, it has everything to do with that. Because, and it's always right now, right?
Yeah.
And so if we just lived in right now and listened, like, oh, you know what? And of course, everybody has a different schedule. And if you think, well, I'm a little sleepy, I'm going to go lay down. And they're like, well, easy for you to say, I'm at my, I'm building a house here. I can't go to sleep right now on the job. But listen to yourself, and as you can fit things in, maybe it's sitting in your car for 5 minutes and just closing your eyes for 5 minutes, whatever you can do. But it's really about honoring yourself. This whole betrayal piece is huge, by the way. I'd like to touch on that.
Yes, please.
Okay. So self-betrayal is our greatest regret when we pass. Okay. So that is the piece that where we don't show up as we came here to do and fulfill that soul contract we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Okay, because we can get upset how other people have betrayed us. But what it comes down to is we are really most upset because we allowed that person to betray us by staying in that situation, staying at that job, whatever. So everything really comes down to between you and you.
Yeah.
All forgiveness is really between you and you. We make it about the other person because I don't want to have to really own what's going on in me. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. And
Okay.
self-betrayal is such a big issue. And it takes such a deep honesty to say, I am not happy with that decision I did. And I lived it for how many years. And worse, I feel like I didn't learn it. I didn't learn the lesson.
Right. And that's why you're still carrying it. And that's why people haven't healed yet. And again, it's not a judgment. It's just like, okay, this is another opportunity to heal. I heard a talk recently, and they were talking about the life review on the other side. And he said the only time you're ever in pain on the other side in the life review is wherever you withheld love from yourself or someone else. Right? Mm-hmm. So the soul's only regret is withheld love. So if we lived from that knowing, we write it on our mirror, put it and a sticky on our refrigerator, and really think about that. Where am I withholding love from myself and from others? That will shift us. There are leaps past forgiveness. Okay.
Can you say that again? Just because that's a biggie.
And that's the name of my book. The soul's only regret is withheld love.
You withheld talking about that book, by the way.
I was going to mention it, but anyway, it's not out yet. And by the way, and the biggest chapter within that book is on grief, and I didn't understand until I started writing it how grief is 75% of that book, and it's not just grief over the loss of a loved one. There's grief over giving up an addiction. This is my friend. This cigarette, this beer I have a relationship with it. I'm at a loss for that. So there's grief on so many levels. But again, it all funnels down to where have I withheld love? I've got to use something outside of me to bring myself peace. I've got to distract myself. But that peace, that just means everything. Is the soul's only regret is withheld love. So this work is far more than healing this lifetime and making me a happier person right now. This is for lifetimes, Bart. It really is.
Yes, and that's a great question to keep asking yourself. What am I regretting in who I am? And really identifying it and looking at it without any hesitation. And we're coming to the end of the show. We have 1 minute left, so I need to let everybody know that you're listening to Pam Gregory at pamgregory.com.
Pamela Gregory.
Pamela Gregory.
They confuse us all the time. The astrologer Pam Gregory now.
Yes, there's Pam Gregory from the UK, and there's Pamela Gregory from the Western United States. So let's know that difference. My name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious. And you are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. We got about 15 seconds. Any last word?
All I have to say is just go out and just be love and let that lead your way. Yeah, honestly, it's as simple and easy and hard as that. Be love.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Pamela.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you.
We'll see everybody next week when we have Veronique Fleon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.